One of the realizations that makes me understand just how relevant what we talk about here at Nomad Capitalist is the idea that countries, particularly small countries, can turn on a dime. Countries can go from communist to capitalist within your lifetime, and they have. And today I'm going to share with you 7 countries that were communist and are now highly economically free, some of them even more so than the United States. I'm Andrew Henderson. Here at Nomad Capitalist, our global team of over 3 dozen people, our network of experts all around the world, and yours truly help 7- and 8-figure entrepreneurs and investors legally go where you're treated best. You can learn more at nomadcapitalist.com. This is something that I really want you to understand. Countries change. One of the things that I talked about in my family growing up was how if you go back to the turn of the 20th century, 1900, Argentina was among the wealthiest countries in the world. If you go back to the turn of the 21st century, I personally know people whose idea was, let's move to Venezuela. The oil industry is booming there. There's lots of wealth to be made. And you look at how quickly things can change historically. Today, no one would think of Argentina as one of the wealthiest countries. Perhaps a beautiful country, maybe not a bad place to live if you could just be left alone, but certainly not a wealthy country. It's a place that has endless economic upheaval. Venezuela, the same in recent years. And yet, it also goes the other way. The United States is often considered, particularly by Americans, as the #1 country for economic freedom. It long has not been. Countries like Hong Kong and Singapore and even Ireland have beat it out. But every year the Heritage Foundation puts out an index. And in the 2020 Index of Economic Freedom, they list all the countries from #1 down to almost 200. Singapore this year comes out as #1. 6 countries are entirely free. And a handful of countries, about 30 or so, are basically free, mostly free in terms of their economy. #10, for example, Estonia, country that was part of the USSR, now has a zero tax policy for corporations who retain their earnings. Once you pay those out, you can pay as little as 14 up to 20%. They have a policy of inviting people to come and hire people and start businesses. You can file your taxes on a postcard. Certainly not Soviet-level bureaucracy, but the country has changed. It's now more economically free than practically every country in Europe and more free than the United States. It's joined at #12 by the country of Georgia, one we've talked about for a long time. And back in 2003, Mikhail Saakashvili was elected president. He'll be speaking at our Nomad Capitalist Live about how he basically took the country from a corrupt Soviet backwater where people were eating a single can of tuna fish for an entire family a day. There were no jobs to be had. The place was a total disaster. Turned it around to the 6th easiest place to start a business. And now, the world's 12th freest economy, where you can do everything digitally. The government works. It's the place where I say the government is more efficient than the people. That's something that's it's a tall order, but I think they've done that in Georgia, despite not as much growth in recent years. They are still #12. Imagine that a former Soviet republic, in your lifetime, I was 5 years old when the Soviet Union, or 6 years old when the Soviet Union fell apart. And now you've got a country that in that time, not even in that time, at about half that time, was able to go from the bottom of the pack to #12. #16, Lithuania. Much like Estonia, they have adopted relatively tax-friendly policies, especially for Europe. They've attracted a lot of businesses to come and hire and to move part of their workforce from places in much more expensive countries like Germany. They've encouraged startups. They have low to moderate taxation, certain tax exemptions, the ability to become a resident and move to the country. And so they've done things that other countries wouldn't in an effort to attract business, and they've gotten themselves ranked #16th on the list of economically free countries. One below them, #17, is the United States. Now, is 17 that bad? No, you could be 117, you could be 187. But I think that it shows the point that things change. And when I was born in the 80s, the US was pretty close to #1 in a lot of these rankings because there wasn't nearly as much competition. You didn't have Estonia as your competition. And that's why I call the US and others like it legacy brands, because they're resting on their laurels. They're resting on the brand that, hey, who's going to compete against us? As one of the US state governors said, where are you going to go? Well, you could go to Estonia, you could go to Georgia, you could go to Lithuania, you could go to number 3, the Czech Republic. Now, they have become a bit more difficult recently, but their economy is improving. Their ranking in terms of freedom is improving. Taxes have come down. For some crypto investors, it's been not a bad place to live. Reasonable taxation on crypto. It's been one of the most open places in terms of personal freedom, in terms of low taxes on things like cigarettes and alcohol, relatively laissez-faire economy for stuff like that. And it has been improving. Number 32, Latvia, to complete the Baltic trifecta. Again, moderate taxes, certain tax exemptions, ability to get residence, ability to do business. Corruption has gone greatly down in recent years. And so, is it the ideal place to start a business or to plant your flags? Perhaps not what it once was 5 years ago. I'm not saying many of you are going to be rushing to Latvia, but it shows the point that there are places, including in the European Union, that are actually working to make conditions more hospitable to investors and to business. Number 34, Armenia, greatly reducing corruption in the last couple years, reducing taxes, making it so that small businesses can pay practically no taxes at all on about $50,000 in income to encourage entrepreneurship, to bring in money from overseas, cutting taxes on things like dividends, making processes easier. I've seen it myself, having been going to Armenia for the last 5 years or so. It has seen a change. People tell me how they feel and they see a change. Armenia is growing. And yet you look at how they manage the currency. It has gotten beaten up a little bit recently, but for an emerging market currency, it has fared amazingly well over the years against the US dollar. Number 36, Bulgaria, still dealing with some issues of corruption, but better than it ever has before, or at least better than it was before back in the day. Making a lot of progress. You can go and live in Bulgaria as a European or as a non-European. 10% flat tax on income, unheard of practically in Europe. For countries that may be lowering their taxes in some cases, you've seen some of the taxes in Sweden or in Norway go down, but go down to 48%, for example. In Bulgaria, it's 10. Corporate tax, 10. Special tax exemptions in some cases, encouraging investment, lots of opportunities. Not my particularly favorite country, quite frankly, to live in. And so I think that if you are a European looking for lower taxes, potentially there are better options out there, much more than Bulgaria, which I think is often marketed to Europeans. But you can't argue with the statistics. The Heritage Foundation says number 36, that is enough to barely put them in the category of mostly free, but they made it. And here's the thing about all 6 or 7 of those countries, rather. They're all increasing. Year over year, their numbers are going up. Now, in some of the individual categories, they may be going down. Most of these countries, I think, are neutral to improving in terms of taxes. Like I said, in Armenia, taxes are going down. Georgia and Lithuania have copied some of the tax programs of places like Estonia in recent years to make it easier to do business. Armenia has been making it easier for small businesses. And again, corruption, for those of these countries that are not like Georgia, not like Estonia, that have gotten rid of that, the rest of them are making improvements in that area. There may be some areas where they're declining, but overall the trend is positive. These are countries that when I was born, you would never even have thought about going to. It would be impossible to go to. And now, some of them are beating the US. Some of them are beating some of the economies that you think are free, the places where you want to go, the places where you think your money is safe. And it merely goes to show that when you look at the numbers, the US is going down. Nobody thinks that way. If you look at those numbers, you'll realize where can I go where I'm treated best. Now, is Bulgaria the best place to start a business? Maybe for someone who wants to be in the EU. Bulgaria versus Estonia versus Malta is a common question. What kind of business are you running? Would you rather have, zero tax now but higher tax later? Whether you would use these in your plan, whether you want to live part-time in Georgia, whether you want to have a company in Estonia, whether you want to bank in Latvia, you probably don't anymore. It just goes to show that the numbers are on the side of these emerging economies. And I want you to look at that and understand that everything you think you know about the world and freedom perhaps is wrong. And it only goes to show how so many countries wish to be competitive. There are always upstarts trying to to challenge the established brand. The established brand often does not react until it is too late. And so if you are sitting in a country that is moving in the wrong direction, realize there are countries that are trying to compete for your business, the same as any other industry is trying to compete for your business. This is the age of government competition. These countries are, at least in some part, doing their thing to grab a certain kind of business. I don't see the US doing that much to grab business. They're doing a heck of a lot to push it away. That's why their numbers are going down. That's why a number of Western countries' numbers are going down. And that's why these countries that you probably haven't thought about a lot are going up. How can Nomad Capitalist help you? 4 ways. Number 1, subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell to make sure you get our new video every day. Number 2, get a copy of Nomad Capitalist, the book. You'll learn a lot of my personal experiences over a dozen years of studying this stuff, as well as exactly some of the strategies that you can use to build your Nomad Capitalist plan. Number 3, if you're not sure where to start, but you want to come and learn from my team and I, you want to come and mingle with like-minded people, learn more about our live conference, Nomad Capitalist Live. It's coming up soon. And number 4, if you want some help right now because you've got a burning issue, you need something solved, you want to lower your taxes, get a second passport, or build the Nomad Capitalist lifestyle of your dreams, go to nomadcapitalist.com and click on Become a Client.